Bradley finished Steven Universe. Why don't you tell us your thoughts on that ending? You can go spoiler free. I don't think the other two care very much. Or spoiler full.
Spoiler full. Yes, this will be a full spoiler discussion of Steven Universe. So if there's any listeners who think they might want to finish the series, you could skip ahead in the audio slash video slash whatever media you're
It
consuming.
will be spoilers up to future episode 8 because I haven't watched 9 and 10, so don't do it, Bradley.
I finished Steven Universe. This probably won't be a super long talk. I feel like we did a lot of that last week. I wanted to kind of give my impressions of the main series finale and maybe the movie, and some of future. I kind of like Willer was saying, it might be, I don't know if controversial, but less than. It's definitely, the ending is not unanimously liked in Steven Universe. And in fact, the general vibe I've gotten is most people are unhappy in some way with the ending of the main series. I really liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. I think the last stretch of episodes have some really fucking cool action. There's a lot of stuff that was looked forward to for a long time. A lot of characters that you're like, when the hell are these people finally going to fuse? And you finally get the fusions.
One thing you didn't know that was a popular fan theory was that when all 4 of them fuse, they become the Obsidian, which is the giant statue that's behind their house, which is a long-running fan theory, and seeing that was very exciting.
Yeah, like I had no idea. So when you brought that up to me, I thought that was really, really cool. And Obsidian was my favorite fusion in the series for about an hour and a half until I watched the movie right after finishing the series.
Steg is just a JoJo character.
Yeah, the final stretch of episodes, tons of really good action, really good character development, and we finally get to see some characters for the first time, like obviously White Diamond, who had one of like the creepiest introductions to a character in anything. I was so intimidated by this character.
It was a really good one, and her design is so fucking striking.
Yeah.
Because she's so bright that if she stands still, she just looks like a floating face, which I think is a really nice aesthetic.
Yeah. So I wanted to address some of the things that people seem to not like. A lot of people seem to not like maybe the degree to which diplomacy played a role in Steven for dealing with the diamonds, like maybe yellow and blue. Which, like, this is Steven Universe. Like, obviously, Steven's not going to go around murdering all of his enemies.
It's one of those things, like I was saying, people get so invested in this show where they're like, it has mature themes, so I want it to have a super mature ending kind of thing. And I can see it to some point where I personally, I think blue and yellow worked well because even that episode, Steven says, I've been training this whole time to learn how to mend families together, right? And that's what their whole thing was about. With White, I thought it went pretty fast. That's where I fall on that, but it's not enough to ruin the show for me, like for a lot of people.
Yeah, and like even if I felt like any of that went really fast, I think the reasoning behind it was fine. For blue, yellow, white, I think all of their reasons and motivations for changing their ways and following Steven, I thought all of those were sound. Like I understood them all. There's a few of them, like maybe for yellow, I wish they would have taken like a little bit longer. I want to see a little bit more of the wheels turning in their head. But I mean, I thought it was all fine.
Part of it too is that I can see why people might have even been salty at the time, but I think Future addresses quite a bit of those concerns where it shows that they haven't fully changed and there's still a lot of work to do even 2 years after, to kind of bring peace between these two races.
Yeah, in Future, I kind of got the vibe that, you know, all of Steven's work is not done. In fact, a lot of it is only beginning.
and it's weighing heavy on him. So I have a lot of fun with the future episodes.
I know another thing with the diamonds that I saw a lot before I even finished the series. I had just seen around. I always kind of knew that at least one or two of the diamonds Steven was gonna end up allying with or being friends with in some capacity, because I remember back a few months ago when the series had actually finished, but I hadn't seen the finale, a lot of people were mad, like, oh, these are intergalactic dictators who destroyed planets and we're just going to be okay with them, we're not going to shatter them. Like, apparently there were a lot of people out there who wanted Steven to, like, shatter the diamonds, and I don't know. He's like...
That doesn't seem to fit with the mood or the theme of the show at all.
Yeah, it doesn't really fit with the mood of the show. I feel like a lot of that comes from there's a bunch of different like philosophies of justice out there, and one of them is, you know, you do bad things, you get a fitting punishment. So people are like, oh, you know, you conquer hundreds of planets, maybe that's capital punishment territory.
You could argue that other life forms they dealt with weren't like humans, to the point where like it took Rose Quartz seeing and meeting humans to really change on a fundamental level. So like to them it was like the way that we eat animals, or you know, move animals and lower life forms out of the city so we can live. I can totally understand why it took them meeting something like Steven to like at least reconsider their ways, and why they could be redeemable in that way.
So I've never seen Steven Universe. I've heard a lot of people talk about it, but this ending sounds similar to like Avatar: The Last Airbender. Are there any comparisons to draw from that?
Yeah, the same way that Avatar spoilers, y'all should watch Avatar. It's fantastic.
I think it ended in like 2006.
If you didn't grow up with Avatar, I don't think you grew up. So it's like,
it feels similar to Avatar in the sense that people who have a problem with how the main villain was defeated, I feel like they don't have a good grasp on what the show was trying to tell you.
Yeah,
gotcha.
It's like that. What did you think of? We talked a lot about the ending. You watched all of season 5 with this, right? I think the only parts of season 5 I was iffy on was like kind of the beginning, with Lars on the gem planet. But after that, I thought it picked up, especially with the best episode in the series, which is a Single Pale Rose. That was some
Single
heavy
Pale
shit.
Rose is extremely interesting. And it's fun because Steven Universe, even as far back as like maybe season 2 or 3, because that's when I was initially watching it, they have this fun thing they do where extremely unimportant episodes will be titled stuff like a very special episode, and it's an episode where nothing actually really happens. But then very like the most plot relevant episodes in the whole series will have very nondescript titles and descriptions. Like the episode in season 5 that drops, like it explains the biggest, longest running mystery in the show, and the description for the episode is Steven helps Pearl find her cell phone.
I love it. I love stuff like that.
That's very important.
I think
it was
within an 11-minute episode. It's just kind of masterful the way they tell this story. It starts off very lighthearted, and then when Steven starts receiving these text messages, it gives off an air of creepiness, and they manage the mood really well over the next few minutes, where Steven goes into Pearl's head, and the color script of this episode is amazing, where the colors start very light, and as he's moving through her head, it goes more neutral, and then suddenly he teleports to the Keyblade graveyard from Kingdom Hearts, and all of the colors are burgundy and red and black, and you're just like, oh fuck, like we're about to get into some real shit.
Is cell phone and a net like?
No, it's a cell phone.
Is that a word for something?
No,
it's a literal cell phone.
But in that episode, they drop twists that change how you've seen the entire show up to this point. It's really good. And then you get that arc of the gems coming to term with the twist, and I think all of them had really strong reactions. Amethyst in particular ends up like she goes from the least interesting gem to ending up as like an A tier character. Still the least interesting gem, but that's just how good the rest of them end
if
up.
A tier character is the least interesting of the main bunch, you're doing something right.
Well, what did you think about the movie? So we can wrap up this segment here.
I really loved the movie.
Ooh.
The soundtrack in the movie is off the fucking chain, even by Steven Universe standards.
They had some fire
which
songs.
Which Steven Universe standards are off the fucking chain. I think not the first song in the movie, maybe the second, where the main villain Spinel is introduced. The song "Other Friends" is a catchy as fuck song. Like, I'm kind of mad because it keeps playing in my head, and I'm afraid I'm not gonna like it as much anymore, which has not been the case so far. And also, during the choreography during that song is awesome when she pulls out her scythe and she does Monkey D. Luffy stuff where she like wraps around the building and launches herself, and it's really cool.
Man, the last fight in that movie had some One Piece references that you don't even know, bro. Rebecca Sugar is said to be a One Piece fan, and you could see it.
I know Garnet did a little Gum Gatling.
Garnet's been Aura-Oraing since season 1. So for me, like I said last time, the first half of the movie is kind of weak because it's going through a lot of character retreads, and I don't really like Spinel in that point of the movie. But then the second half, as soon as like the concert with Steg and Opal goes, the movie's just fire from that point on. That's how I feel about the movie.
Yeah. It is interesting because we introduced Spinel, and she's very immediately interesting, but then, like you said, we kind of put her in the background for the next half of the movie, which it's like, okay, we introduced the main villain, and then they're irrelevant for a little while. But whenever she does become relevant again in the movie, like you said, the movie is fire from that point on. I really liked her backstory, and I've talked about one of the most interesting things in Steven Universe to me is that Steven's mother, Rose / Pink, spoiler alert, she, in the early seasons, I'd probably even say like the first 4 seasons of the show, she's painted as just this absolutely unattainably perfect, loving, forgiving person. And I really love that as the show goes on, season 5, the movie, future, stuff like that, you begin to get more of a look into what her life was actually like, and you learn that not only was she not a perfect person, she actually did some really, really shitty things.
Really shitty. I think she ends up being a really complex character, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who hate her guts. She's very interesting to me.
Yeah. So by the end of the movie, I really wanted to give Spinel a hug. I really felt bad for her. But I don't. Oh yeah, she goes and lives with the diamonds, right?
I thought that was a weird ending, to where it's like, Steven's like, dude, I got too much shit to deal with. Can you go be friends with the diamonds? And then maybe I'll see you in future.
And I thought it was interesting, and after hearing you talk about it a little bit, it kind of grew on me, because probably it's not even close to the climax of the movie, but the emotional climax for me personally was when Steven first befriends Spinel, and convinces her to, spare the Earth. And then after she does, he immediately is kind of like, okay, let's go over here and do this other thing. And she's like, okay, you're just going to forget about me? You just wanted me for this? And, he tries to backpedal. It's like, no, there's just other stuff to do right now. But obviously, because of her abandonment issues, she kind of goes back, and she's like, no, you never wanted to be my friend. And that was
very justified. She had very justified abandonment issues.
So I can kind of understand both of them, because I was very much on Spinel's side there, and I still am. But then you also brought up, it's like Steven over the past 5 seasons of this show has been shouldering dozens of burdens of his mom's mistakes, and this is another one. And it's like, maybe he doesn't need to solve all of his mom's problems.
Or like, you can't expect him to be her best friend immediately. Like, he's got so much going on. I'm sure they'll end up just peachy by the end of Future and stuff. But like, it's just not. It was not the time for him to have to deal with something like Spinel.
Yeah, because if Steven did what I wanted him to do here initially, I could see him 20 years down the line having to balance 6 friends, which is not very feasible. So I really like the way she ended up, I think, at the end of the movie.
Tyler pulled up his Photoshop as he's editing some thumbnails, and he dragged the Steven in, and he whited out the black part, which included his hair, so it was just like a headless Steven there for a bit. Anyways, Steven Universe is great. Give it a try. I think it's a show where you'll know if you enjoy it pretty early, and then like 22 episodes in, which isn't that much because they're 11-minute episodes. If you're unsure at that point still, definitely like drop it at that point. But I think it's a show that will hook you pretty quickly, I think.
Yeah. If you're a person who doesn't know if you might want to watch the show, maybe my experience can give you a little bit of motivation. I think the show started airing when I was either in high school or maybe the first year of college. And as an adult, I'm still an avid cartoon watcher. I remember I was on Cartoon Network and I saw like the very first advertisements for the show.
This is the exact same way I got into the show.
I saw the characters. I was like, oh, they look weird. And I remember I saw a preview of an episode, and Steven had little cats on his fingers.
Yeah,
like,
it was the song where it's like Cookie Cats, 7 episodes in this disc. Like it was.
I was like, oh, this show looks stupid.
Steven
I was like,
right. What it was for me was because I'm a One Piece fan. I saw these character designs. I was like, ooh, these are dumb One Piece character designs. And they're pretty colors, so I'm into that.
So I thought the show looked really stupid. I don't know why I'm trying to convince people to watch this after we just had a full spoiler discussion.
Whatever, we're done. Steven Universe, I like it.
I don't know. I got convinced to watch the show. I saw the Stronger Than You clip where Garnet fights Jasper.
Ooh.
And I was like, oh my god, that song was cool. That fight was cool. And then I saw the twist about Garnet, and I was like, I don't know anything about the show, but I assume that twist was really cool. And then I went in and I watched the first episode, and I was like, yeah.
Hold on. Time out. This is a reoccurring theme with Bradley.
It is.
Where he spoils himself on the most important
Yes.
aspect of the thing, and then he's like, oh, that seemed interesting, and then goes back.
All my
worked for
favorite shit,
Worm.
like Worm, fucking Berserk, Steven Universe. I'm sure probably even other things. I'll see a
JoJo's.
yeah, like I'll see a twist or like even the ending of the thing first before I ever even start it, and I'm like, I wonder how we got there. And then I'll start it, and it ends up so like I'll get the biggest spoiler out of the way first, but I still end up loving it.
So the question is, did Bradley get a spoiler for One Piece, and that made him decide to
Well,
start reading
Bradley spilled himself on Luffy's bounty, like immediately.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I think I was trying to Google. I wasn't even Googling his bounty. I just Googled something about Luffy, and it was like blah 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 million bounty. I was like, oh, okay.
I told Bradley he's not allowed. You're not even allowed to type in searches for One Piece because there will be spoilers in certain searches. It's like, don't just ask me. It just goes to show you that spoilers are not the end all be all.
Yeah, everyone spoil me on your favorite things, and maybe that'll make me.
No, I don't want to read this.
That's what I've taken. If you want Bradley to watch anything, just tell him how it ends first.
Yeah.
All right.
Bradley,
Allow me to tell you the ending.
the way the Good
Of
Place ends is, I don't know, because a new episode
Don't
came
know.
out.
Oh, it came out tonight, Joe. I'm so fucking excited.
Tyler, I like watching you make the thumbnails.
Yeah, this is fun. All right, Steven Universe done.